Welcome back to the channel, Hobby-Wan Kenobi here. Today we are starting work on the Hobbyboss F-105D Thunderchief in 1/48 scale. I remember attempting to finish the monogram kit as a kid and had always wanted to revisit this aircraft. The shape of the aircraft is sleek and it just looks so damn fast. Okay, let's get started. Well, before we start, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and if you feel compelled, please feel free to leave a comment. Okay, now let's actually get started. I purchased the Res Kit engine set for this kit. First, resin can be brittle, and this set has pieces that can break off easily. Second, I do recommend wearing a respiratory mask whenever dealing with resin. Resin particulates are especially harmful to our lungs. As you can see here, the engine parts are painted, received a protective gloss coat, and are receiving an oil wash. In this video, you will see parts from the Aries resin cockpit set, also receiving the oil wash. However, I ended up failing to get this set to work, so I used the ejection seat, which you see here painted up. Rather than working with the Aries resin set, I purchased the Quinta 3D decal cockpit set and scraped away the dials from the control panel. The kit interior cockpit was painted up with Tamiya colors and a wash was again applied. Once dried, the wash was removed with Q-tips and a soft brush. The 3D decals were cut away and white glue was applied to the cockpit panels. The decals were dipped in water and dried quickly. It is important to not let these kind of decals to soak up water, but simply add water to release them from the backing paper. The side consoles are supposed to hang over the side of the kit part. This was done to fix the overly thin Hobbyboss pieces. However, once dried, these decals may hang over the edge. I fixed this by supergluing pieces of plastic card to the kit part and trimming the plastic to size. I decided to drill out the holes for the 6-barreled Gatling gun at the front of the aircraft. This was done by poking a fresh X-Acto blade at the center, then carefully twisting the knife around until the hole was noticeable. Next, I moved on to the wings. Putting the two wing halves together revealed that a few pin marks would be visible, while others would not. I scraped away those that would be visible with a scalpel and sanding sticks. The wings also revealed a strange space that seemed to require the addition of a panel, but none was provided in the kit. This area ended up being covered up by more plastic sheet. Now the wings were assembled using Tamiya extra thin cement. Hobbyboss decided to leave several small wing flaps as separate pieces to be added by the modeler. I am not sure the reason for this, but I recommend taking a lot of care to ensure the fit of each of these pieces. Once the trailing edge flap was added to the wing, I found a large gap. A plastic shim was added to correct this area. The intakes of the 105 have a rail or a brace along the inside of the wall wing. This piece was emulated using square plastic trimmed at the ends to create the characteristic angle of this railing. At this moment, I would like to remind you to like this video if you're enjoying this comment, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Okay, next I decided to scratch build a pitot tube out of brass tubing and brass rod. This allowed the pitot tube to be secured from the inside of the cone. I then covered the entire area with CA glue. On the outside, CA glue was generously applied around the tube and cone, and around the tube and the thin rod. Once the glue was dry, I was able to shape these fillets with sanding sticks. I really like how the piece turned out and recommend anyone out there to try this technique on their next aircraft model. Next, I found that the main gear doors lacked any sort of detail. On the real aircraft, the doors have a nice groove along the leading edge, as well as many rivets. The work on these doors started first by filling in the pin marks with CA glue and sanding them flush. Then I took a 1mm panel line scriber from Disc Bay and started a small notch at the edge. I pulled back slowly to remove plastic, working all around the leading edge. This required a few passes and a lot of patience. The area was further cleaned with the use of an X-Acto knife and sanding sticks. The intakes were airbrushed white, and now it was time to mate the two fuselage halves. This was done with the help of clamps, Tamiya extra thin, and CA glue for the areas that needed more strength. Once the halves were together and cleaned up, I started replacing some lost rivets. Next, the wings were set in place and secured with Tamiya extra thin. These fit relatively well with little fuss. As I started to glue the pieces for the vertical stabilizer, I found that the large hole in the front should have what appears to be a bar running vertically just inside. I emulated this with a piece of plastic before gluing the whole fin to the fuselage. Before painting could commence, I needed to add detail to the area forward the control panel. This area is a mix of evergreen plastic, a section from the area's resin set, and tissue to capture the look of the real aircraft. I coated the area with white glue and, once dried, covered the area with Tamiya gray primer. I will say, despite having 3 separate reference books and the entire internet at my disposal, I still had a hard time finding a photo that clearly showed this area of the F-105. Much of the look of this area is based off of pictures I found from updated resin kits that would eventually replace this spot. And now the model is ready for paint. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.